Hello, and welcome to Witchy Woman Podcast. I am your host, DaNae Sweet, and this is episode 47. Holy moly, I'm not too far from 50. That seems like crazy that I could do that many episodes already. It doesn't seem like I've been doing the podcast that long, so that's kind of crazy, right? So today I'm going to go over Yule. Yule is sneaking up on us. It's going to come soon, and I thought it'd be cool to go over kind of what is Yule, the history behind it, some fun facts, correspondences, how we can celebrate with our families, and then I do have a ritual that I found online that I'm going to share in the Witchy Woman Friends group. I'm just going to post the link there. It'd be easier for me to share it than to talk the whole thing out because it would seem kind of weird and awkward. I kind of was trying to do that. I was reading the chant and everything, and I felt kind of ridiculous. So I'm just going to paste the link into that group so you guys can look at it there. As far as our mundane lives go, it's been relatively peaceful, which is still weird. So we're always just waiting for the other shoe to drop still. But it's been pretty kick-ass as far as this, lower stress level. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but I've had some serious back pain in my pelvis as well, and my hip. Bad enough to where it can't stand for more than a couple minutes, and it's been excruciating, all day. I can't wait just to go to bed so that I can maybe take a sleeping pill and sleep through the pain for a little bit. So this has been going on for months, and I finally got relief on Friday, and I just had to share with you guys because, and preface this, these people are no way sponsoring the podcast. I just want to share this new method and the healing modality that I experienced. So I knew as an energetic worker, an energetic healer, that my root chakra and my sacral chakra have got to be just shredded right now because of all of the things going on. I don't feel safe. I don't feel secure. I feel like my passion is gone. My zest for life, all that, and safe, security, home, hearth, all that stuff is just gone. I don't feel it. Really bad anxiety lately. I've had panic attacks, full-blown, seeing stars and gonna pass out panic attacks. So I assumed my physical pain was very much related to emotions. So when I went to the chiropractor. As usual, I do try to get regular chiropractic adjustments, and it does help for a little bit, and then it goes right back out. I'm talking, by the time I get home, I'm back in pain again. So, my chiropractor's wife does a really cool new thing. She has a biofeedback program called Medicine Way. I believe that's the name of it. And what it is, it's kind of hard to explain, but in a nutshell, you put on these headphones and it sends frequencies into your body and basically pings your organs, cells, body parts, things like that, and pings for a response. Is there, pain, disease, bacteria, a virus, whatever. And based on what it finds, it basically maps out your body and says, these are all the things that are wrong with you. It is crazy freaking accurate. I went in, I have weird uterine pain, and I got this is way too much information probably, but I got my IUD out 3 or 4 months ago because it was hurting. So I got it out, and my doctor said that my pain should have subsided by now, but it has not. And it's funny, that program picked it up. Exactly what side of my uterus I felt the most pain. It blew my mind. It also picked up on my hip pain, my ankle pain, all these other things that are going on. It also, I didn't tell her that I had kind of a scratchy throat, and it picked up on the fact that I had picked up some kind of respiratory thing. That I wasn't showing outward symptoms of it, but my ears were kind of itchy inside and my throat was a little scratchy. So anyway, so it tells you all these things, and then she tells it to send frequencies that it recommends to heal those things. So then it sends frequencies into my body to heal these places. And then it recommends herbs that I can take that benefit that particular area and whatever's going on. And then it also gives me crystals. So it actually treats with the frequencies of specific crystals. So for me, not shocking at all, I needed obsidian, carnelian, and coral, which are all sacral and root chakra stones. So I thought that was so cool. Like right then and there, she treats me with the frequencies. And then I went home and she told me that it really wanted me to take mullein. So I had some tea with that in it. And then I also have been wearing my carnelian and obsidian bracelets. I can walk. I can stand and cook a meal. I'm not like free of pain, but I can stand up for like 5 minutes without wanting to sit down or going down on my knees and really hurting. So this has been life-changing for me, and I just had to share with you guys. If anybody suffers from chronic pain, like, you know what I'm talking about. It's just, I have lupus, so I'm always got some kind of weird pain going on or some weird-ass symptom, but the last, 3 months have been terrible as far as my back and my hip has gone. So I have got back some quality of life, and I'm feeling a ton better. Like, just not having that level of pain all the time has been, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I wake up, normally I would wake up and just be like, well, fuck, I don't even want to wake up. I just want to go back to bed because I have to get up and it's going to hurt. But now I get up and I'm like, oh my gosh, that didn't hurt. That's like getting out of bed isn't a big deal. So I just want to thank these amazing people that are in my life. Again, like I'm gushing, but Alicia and Nick are amazing, and they're true healers. They're compassionate, and they've given me some of my life back, and I'll continue treatments so I can get all this pain gone, if possible. But I had to share this with you. Oh, and she also, I just totally skipped over the fact that she did auricular therapy on me. So I do that, but I haven't done it, treated anybody for months because I quit my business, and then I don't do it to myself. So she did, she treated my ears. Basically, it's ear reflexology. So all these little points in your ears are a microsystem of your body. And she treated me that way too, so we can open up those energetic channels and get things flowing and release some of that. Basically, it's kind of like Reiki when it releases the byoki or gets that gone. But anyway, I feel so much better, and I want to say thank you. I had to share that with you guys. We're going to take just a tiny little break, because I need to pay some bills, and I have an amazing company I'd like to tell you about. Green Moon Apothecary. So there's a long history of witches and healers around the world using cannabis. In modern day witchcraft, more and more people are exploring how the cannabis plant can be incorporated into their spiritual practices. Green Moon Apothecary offers self-care, mysticism, and joy with a cannabis-infused twist in a subscription box that is delivered to your door for each Sabbath of the pagan wheel of the year. Each box includes special curated items to assist with ritual and spellwork, manifestation, divination, wellness, and self-care. The smokable part of the cannabis is female, and when you grow the plant, you must elevate the female in order to be successful. That is exactly what Green Moon Apothecary wants to do. Empower people and celebrate the spirit of the cannabis plant. Indulge in enchantment by subscribing to a Green Moon box or explore their many magical products at www.greenmoon.ca. Follow the Witches of Green Moon at green.moon.apothecary and use the code WitchyWoman10 for 10% off your first order. Yule 2019 box deadline is December 11th to guarantee shipment. Okay, I'm going to put all of their info in the show notes, so check that shit out. All right, back to the regularly scheduled program. So anyway, let's get on to Yule. So I've actually gotten quite a few messages asking if I was going to do this episode or if I had any suggestions, and I totally was. So let's get into it. So before I go into Yule and the history of it, let's look at the actual origin of the word. There are a couple different sources that I found that claimed the origin of the word, but I like this one best. So it comes from Old Norse, and according to the Barnhart Concise Dictionary of Etymology, I'm going to put this in quotes, quote, Yule is derived into modern English from Jule, deriving from Old Norse hul, wheel. So like the wheel of the year. Referring to the moment when the wheel of the year is at its low point, ready to rise again. So I just thought I really liked that. I liked that origin of Yule, the word, better. So that's one I picked. Okay, so the pagan holiday Yule takes place on the day of the winter solstice, around December 21st in the northern hemisphere, and in the southern, winter solstice falls around June 21st. Some scholars, I kind of looked around, and some scholars say that the beginning of Yule can be seen in the Roman holiday of Saturnalia. This is what I found when I first looked everything up. I wanted to look up some history, and it said Saturnalia in Rome. So Saturnalia is a feast where Romans commemorated the dedication of the temple of the god Saturn. Saturn is a major god, or was a major god in Roman theology, and he was the god of agriculture and harvest, according. Saturnalia was introduced around 217 BC and was originally celebrated for a day on December 17th. So it got super popular. It was a really big party, and they extended the length of the celebration from one day to a full week, ending on December 23rd. And this got kind of out of hand, and Caesar Augustus tried to shorten the holiday to 3 days, and Caligula tried to shorten it to 5 days, but both of them failed. The public loved the Saturnalia celebration because basically it was a huge party, like anything goes kind of party, and they loved it. So attempts to kind of shorten it down and failed over and over. So also around this time of winter solstice, Romans also observed Juvenalia. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but that was the feast honoring the children of Rome. Kind of cool. Members of all classes also would celebrate, Members of the upper classes often also celebrated the birthday of Mithras, a god of the unconquerable sun, on December 25th. So, it was believed that Mithras was an infant god born of a rock, and for most Romans, Mithras' birthday was the most sacred day of the year. And I found a deal. It said in 354 AD, a Roman scholar wrote this, and I thought it was kind of cool. He wrote, "It was customary for pagans to celebrate the birth of the sun. When the doctors of the church perceived that the Christians had a leaning to this festival, they took counsel and resolved that the true nativity should be solemnized on that day, December 21st. So that was kind of one of the first, Christianity kind of trying to take over that holiday. And I want to touch a bit more on Mithras. I know I've mentioned him before. I think I talked about him in the Easter episode, but I would like to talk about him again in case you missed that. So in Persia, Mithras was the god of lights, kind of associated very closely to the sun. And this god directly competed with Christianity. Mithras' birthday was also celebrated at the same time, on December 25th. A time when slaves, commoners, really, dignitaries, everybody celebrated together. And when I was looking up kind of what it was like, it sounded like it was like Mardi Gras and New Orleans, like that kind of thing. Plus maybe the festival in Rio, all shoved into one celebration, and that sounds wild. So anyway, at the time of the early church, my dog's growling, I'm sorry. At the time of the early church, Jerusalem was under persecution, so some of them decided to flee the country. Among these fleeing bishops was Saint Nicholas. He was one of the 7 bishops of Jerusalem, and Nicholas made his way back to Antioch and stayed there to basically run a cult of his making. His followers were known as Nicolaitans. I don't know. Nicolaitans. The cult practiced agnosticism and enjoyed the finer things of life. So they indulged. They loved foods, wine, freaky sex, and all of the other pleasures that they really shouldn't or couldn't have been doing if they were following Christianity as it was being followed by others. They believed in Pythagoras and Plato, and they actually kind of tweaked the Bible scriptures so that you could include science into their Bible. They believed that knowledge rather than faith was the key to salvation, and I kind of thought that was kind of neat. And they were open to knowledge about natural sciences. And if you're gonna go, say you went to like a party in this era around these people, something they would talk about would be like fire and astronomy and astrology. All those things were very important topics to them, and they actually taught and debated that. So this all explains how or why in the book of Revelation, Jesus kind of poo-pooed their spin on religion. And there's some actual passages in Revelations that it makes reference to the Nicolaitans and the Gnostics and how they're doing their spin or their flavor of Christianity, and how he basically says, no, don't do it. Anyway. There was a lot of fighting in the area around Antioch, and that was probably because of these pagan celebrations like Saturnalia. And they included like feasting and drinking and gift giving and sexual escapades. Nothing was taboo really during this, and basically they never wanted to give it up. And eventually it was legitimized by the Catholic Church under Constantine. So the celebration of the rebirth of the sun god and that of Mithras' birth became one. Eventually, December 25th became the date of Christ's birth. It was changed by Pope Julius I in the 4th century. And when this happened, I found this particular thing kind of interesting. So when the date was changed, Jerusalem heard that Jesus' birth was changed to be celebrated on December 25th. And the day that was the day they knew as the official Roman Empire's, Mithras' birthday. Man, I can't say that word very fast. So they basically rioted in the streets and considered this date change, blasphemy. I did not know about that. And I found this little tidbit. The celebration of Christmas was actually outlawed in this country, in the U.S., from its early colonization until mid-19th century. What? So the first state to make Christmas a legal holiday was Alabama in 1936. And between 1850 and 1861, 15 states followed suit. What? I had no idea that it was a banned thing. Yeah, that's just so freaking weird. Anyway, that is a little bit about the history in Rome and Christianity's kind of role in it. The Norse had a pretty big influence on Yule as well. So the Norse actually invaded pagan Celtic lands, and the Norse had a lot of influence on Celtic pagans, and so did the Romans. Norse literature has a lot of references to Yule and winter solstice celebrations. I cannot pronounce this. I'm going to spell it. So the first book of Hilmsrlaga is called Ynglinga Saga. And in that book, it first mentions a Yule feast in 1840. The Norse Prose Edda book I'll freaking put it in the notes. It's some long ass word, and it mentions Yule as well. And this is a little tiny. It says, in that book, it said, and quote, "Again, we have produced Yule being's feast, our ruler's eulogy, like a bridge of masonry." It was just a poet. That was part of a poem in that book that they mentioned Yule. In Scandinavia, the Norse celebrated Yule from December 21st on the winter solstice through January in recognition of the return of the sun. This is something you're going to see in early European paganism, and the Wheel of the Year divided into 4 parts. It actually is not a giant leap from early pagans. They're already familiar with honoring the solstice periods, and you can kind of see that in Stonehenge and early documentation of paganism. They recognized the sun's return and knew it meant the beginning of warmer days and future fields to tend. So the warmth would return to the world and the darkness would fade. Modern Yule today is still a festival that honors the cycles of nature and the wheel of the year. It's not just about the rebirth of God figure in pagan lore. Yule is a a 12-day holiday in some traditions, and it begins on Mother's Night, which is December 21st, and ends 12 days later on Yule Night, January 1st. This is the origin of the Christian 12 days of Christmas. Interesting. For Celtic pagans, Yule is a time when the sun god Lu is reborn in human form to rejoin his beloved wife, Eru. Probably saying that wrong as well. So when I was looking her up, they kind of describe her in this form, or in this place, as a hag who kind of make this huge transformation into a beautiful goddess, and by the marriage. And then, so when she gets married, she becomes beautiful, and then she is the embodiment of the land of Ireland. She becomes known in legend as the sovereignty of Ireland. I thought that was beautiful. So Yule is also the celebration of the cycle of life through her and all her incarnations as the maiden, mother, and crone goddess. Very cool. So in this legend, the god Lu takes his bride in the form of maiden goddess to look out upon their land, and they're seeing all the suffering, the famine, and all of that. So on their high holy day, or Lugus, I don't ever say it right, but it's Lugus. It's celebrated by many traditions as the moment when Lu, as a sacred king, sacrifices his own life to save suffering people. And when he does that, his blood is spread all across the fields to ensure fertility of the lands and their harvest. So it kind of starts then. So then as the harvests are brought in and winter moves in, the Great Mother resurrects Lu from the ground, rising him up into the sky, and returns him as the sun to the universe. So the effort to raise Lu into the sky causes Eru to grow old, and as she shared all of her knowledge with the god to teach him all that he needs to know so that he can govern the people when she dies, he bestows her old crone wisdom. Jesus, I can't talk today. She bestows all of her old crone wisdom upon Lu and brings back the cycle of the beginning of that legend. So it just kind of goes round and round. I thought that was kind of the death and rebirth theme is strong this time of year. The Welsh, so it's going to take a little turn and talk about the Welsh traditions. They also had their own, and Yule is when the young Oak King and the old Holly King battle for supremacy, just as they do in Midsummer. So at Midsummer, Holly King battles the Oak King and wins. And the Holly King reigns until the start of winter, or the beginning of Yule. And when the Oak King is reborn and prepares to battle the Holly King for rule over the land once more. So it's another battle, a death and rebirth battle. So let's kind of switch gears again and talk about the witchy Yule background. So what do I celebrate as a witch around this time of year? So I kind of want to go back to Samhain just for a second. So it starts with Samhain. The goddess follows the god into the underworld, and the earth begins begins winter. It begins the shorter days, right? And at Yule, the goddess is preggers, and she gives birth to the tiny Oak King, or god of the waxing sun. The old god, or Holly King, is then defeated and returns to the underworld to rest until summer solstice, when he will be born again as the god of the waning sun. I thought that I really like that. I love that legend, that theology of it. I don't know. I just really like that particular flair version of it. And at Yule, we're going to also mourn the passing of the old god, who is Lord of Winter. The god has many names besides the Holly King, including Cernunnos, Odin, Harlequin, and of course Santa Claus. And we're also going to mourn the goddess as well, because she is not, I like to include her into this because it's not just about the damn kings and the gods, it's also about the goddess. She is to me in the shadows. She is what helps me do shadow work during this period. She is sleeping and healing, and that's for me what winter is. It's a healing period so that I can take on the rest of the damn year. A lot of shadow work happens by accident this time of the year. I don't purposely anymore dive into that shit. It just ends up popping up. So I feel like she is also If you have a particular goddess that you want to connect with, that's great. Or if it's just Gaia, the earth is sleeping and slumbering during this time. It's kind of whatever you want. But I also love to connect to that feminine divine during this time as well. Anyway. So Yule is also a celebration of the birth of the Sun King and beginning of the next cycle of nature. So it's also a really good time for new beginnings, physically and spiritually, because the wheel of the year has made a complete circle. It's done, but it's also a new beginning. So this time of year is kind of bittersweet and exciting for some. It's an end and it's a beginning. You can think of it as both. Common altar decorations include evergreen wreaths and bows, pine cones, red and green candles, pine scented incense, all kinds of different, frankincense and myrrh. It goes back to those have pagan roots, but it showed up in the Bible. Peppermint leaf and mistletoe are also really good herbs to work with around this time of the year. I have a ton. I'm going to post all of the correspondences in the show notes, and I will share all that with you. There's a ton. So I'm just going to mention some of my favorites. So we're going to start with animals. Some animals associated with Yule are owls, deer, reindeer, snow geese. Some colors are gold, green, red, and white. Crystals, bloodstone, emerald, garnet, and ruby. Goddesses that you can celebrate or embody at this time of year: Aphrodite, Bridget, Demeter, Fortuna, Gaia, Hel, Ishtar, and Isis. Gods, there's a lot of them. I'm going to just name a couple. Gods would be Apollo, the Green Man, Lu, the Oak King, Odin, Mithra, Ra. Some herbs. If you are really into herbs, it's fun to make teas around this time or burn them in a loose incense. But some favorite herbs for this time of the year: cinnamon, blessed thistle, bay laurel, juniper, mistletoe, oak leaves, and wintergreen. Some incense. If you're like me, you'd love to burn incense. I burn incense all the time, but I love to make specific ones for each Sabbath. Some of the incenses that you can use: cedar, cinnamon, clove, frankincense, juniper, myrrh, orange, and pine. And honestly, if you had all of those and stuck them in a loose incense, it would smell fabulous. I may do that. Oils are cinnamon, ginger, orange, pine, and wintergreen. And of course, as always, do whatever resonates with you. If there is a different oil, herb, color, whatever that resonates with you this time of the year, use it. There are no rules unless you follow a particular dogma. But for me, there's no rules. So if I am making an incense for Yule and something completely out of the blue that seems like it wouldn't be corresponding to this time of year just kind of pops out of me and says, use me, I'm gonna use it. I thought it might be kind of cool to talk about some of the things you can do with your family. You can do some stuff with your family to kind of give back to the universe, to humanity, and to your community. Help out. Do donate to toy drives. It's really cool to take your kids down and have them pick out a toy and donate it and explain why. Volunteer in a soup kitchen, help scoop snowy sidewalks of your neighbors, and visit assisted living places. Those places are pretty sad sometimes during the holidays because some of them don't get visitors, and it's nice to kind of help them out this time of year and visit. If you've got little kids, sometimes some little craft ideas would be to use pipe cleaners. Pipe cleaners are really fun to make ornaments, and you can make little pentacles out of pipe cleaners and hang them on your tree or decorate like your altar with them. You can also make little felt like Yule logs. So part of that is you cut out a felt. You cut out like a little log shape out of felt, And you could also cut out like holly leaves, some green felt, use little red pom-poms for the berries. You can cut out bow shapes, whatever you want to make this little Yule log ornament. And you glue them all together, you glue all that stuff on it, and then you use a pipe cleaner to make the little hangy thing so you can hang it on a tree or wherever else you want to hang it. And of course, there's also the actual Yule log. So kind of a little background about the Yule log. Yule log is a tradition that began in Norway. On the night of winter solstice, you got this big giant log and you burnt it to celebrate the return of the sun. I thought that was kind of cool. So the Norsemen believed that the sun was a giant wheel of fire which rolled away from the earth and then became rolling back again in winter solstice. So that was another one of their beliefs. And as Christianity spread, the tradition of having a Yule log became part of Christmas Eve. So it was traditional for like the master of the house. So usually the father or dude that lives in the house would sprinkle the log with mead, oil, or salt. And once the log was burned in their hearth, the ashes were scattered around the house to protect the family within from hostile spirits. That's not even low-key witchcraft, people. That's like witchcraft. Like straight up witchcraft. That's interesting little tidbit there. And so let's talk about the wood. Let's talk about wood. No, really. Let's talk about what kind of wood you can use for a log. So each type of wood is associated with various magical properties. So you pick a wood that matches your goal. So aspen is a wood that would be more for like spiritual awakenings and that sort of thing. Oak is symbolic of strength and wisdom. And if you are hoping that you can get pregnant and add a little addition to your family, you could burn birch. And if you were looking to bring prosperity for the year into your home, you might burn a log of pine. So I thought it was kind of neat. So what you'll need, pun totally intended there, that was hilarious in my head. And when it came out, it was not near as funny, so apologize for the pun. So what you're going to need to make a Yule log, you need pine cones, dried berries, cuttings of mistletoe, holly, pine needles, ivy, pretty much anything. Go on a nature walk with your family and pick up things that you think might be fun to decorate your Yule log with. Feathers and cinnamon sticks are something also that's common. And then get some festive ribbon. Use paper or cloth ribbon, not the kind that's fake. So if you burn it, it's not going to make those weird plastic toxic fumes. Or the wire-lined type, because then you'll have some weird shit in your fire. You'll have wire in there. And you'll need a hot glue gun. So you're going to start by wrapping the log kind of loose with the ribbon. And you're going to leave enough space that you can like stick stuff underneath of it, like the branches and whatever fun little things you found on your nature walk, feathers or whatever. And some people like place a feather on each, some people place a feather on the Yule log to represent each person in the family. It's kind of neat. So once you've gotten your branches and all the cool stuff underneath of there, you can begin gluing on the pine cones, cinnamon sticks, and the berries. So you add as much as you want or as little as you want. I add glitter, of course. So I have edible glitter that it's like culinary glitter. So it's biodegradable. You can eat it. You can burn it. And it's not going to make any weird scents and it just disappears. So I'm going to put some glitter all over mine because I love glitter. And once you're finished, you can use it as a centerpiece, like on your family table, or maybe you have like an altar space that you want to stick it on, and then you burn it. So you're going to burn it whenever you feel like it. So if you want to burn it on the traditional Yule on the 17th, then do it. If you want to do it on solstice, great. If you want to do it on Christmas, do it then. You do you. But before you burn the log, have each person in the family write down a wish on a piece of paper and then stick it into the ribbons. And this is your wishes for the upcoming year. You can either share them or not share them. We've done it in the past and we kind of kept them a secret. So that's kind of neat. So anyway, I'm going to post some stuff. I'll post all of the reference links and all that stuff in the show notes. And I'll also share this ritual. So there's a Yule log ritual. I was going to tell you all about it and it just sounds cheesy when I say it out loud. So I'm just going to post I'll post it in the group and in the show notes, but it's kind of a cool little family ceremony that you can do together. And that was kind of neat. that is all I have for Yule and all the history that I looked up. There was so much stuff. If you want to dive into the history, it's really interesting. If you're kind of person who loves to read about that stuff, it's really fun. So definitely check out the links that I'm going to post in the show notes, and you can get your research on. I really enjoyed it. I would really like to start doing like a Patreon thank you for the people that are joining. So I am going to list off everybody that joined like in the last couple weeks. I know I did like a shout out a while ago, but these are the brand new ones. So I want to thank Becky M, Diana T, Jules S, Chandra S, and Brittany S. Those are the people that joined. They're like a month old. So a month old or newer. So I want to thank you guys so much for choosing to support the podcast. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the WW Coven group. And also, if I have not sent you the link to the WW Coven reading group, let me know. I am behind on stuff, so let me know. We're coming up on the first of the year very quickly, and your quarterly gifts for the citrine group will be going out, and you'll be getting those sometime in January. I'm not positive on time frame, but I know both people that are sending out, both Rena of Holistic Healing Therapeutics and Crystal of Earth Mama Creations are cooking up something amazing for you, and I've gotten a little preview, and you guys are going to be excited. And then also Shelly Leggett of Lavender Potions is going to be doing the quarterly readings in that reading group. So if you did Amethyst or Citrine, you get to go into that reading group and get your free reading. I'm very, very excited about this for you guys, and thank you to all of our sponsors. What else? Also, don't forget to go check out Green Moon Apothecary. I am so excited to be getting my Yule box. It hasn't gotten here yet, but I keep checking the mail. I'm so excited. As soon as I get it, I will make sure we do an unboxing video in the group, and in the Witchy Woman Friends group. I'll do an unboxing there so you can see what I get. So let's get to how you can get a hold of me. You can go to the Witchy Woman podcast main page, hit like, and you will get that's where I post all the announcements. Everything major is going to go there. So episodes, sponsor stuff, all of that stuff, plus really fun witchy memes and stuff that I think is fun to share. That goes there. We also have a Witchy Woman Friends group. It's a closed group. You got to click to join. So anyone that's not out of the closet yet, out of the broom closet, you can be in that group and ask questions and post witchy stuff, and nobody on your friends list is going to see it unless they're also in the group. So definitely check that out. Was talking about the WW Coven earlier. That is the Patreon supporters group. If you are a Patreon supporter of any level, you get into that group. We do all kinds of fun stuff there. That's where I do readings, card pulls, rituals, spells, a lot of fun stuff. I've been kind of lax the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We've done some stuff, but I've been way stressed. So I plan on doing some more stuff in that group here in the next week. So check those things out. You can also follow me on Instagram at Witchy Woman Podcast. You can catch me on Twitter, DaNae_sweet_. You can also email me. That's witchywomanpodcast@gmail.com. And I have snail mail. That's P.O. Box 333, Hyannis, Nebraska 69350. So I want to thank everybody who's reached out. Seriously, I know I say that every episode, but I keep getting the most cool and touching and heartwarming, warming messages from you guys. And I appreciate each and every one of them. Somebody called me their witch mom, and that, like, I seriously had tears. Like, that's probably the coolest thing I've ever been called. so thank you very much. I appreciate all of everything, all the Instagram DMs, the PMs on Facebook. Yeah, I'm old. I still call them PMs and DMs. And even Twitter. I'm getting messages on Twitter, and I really, really appreciate everybody's support. I think that you guys are the best podcast listening group ever. I'm a little biased, but you guys are awesome. You're like my family that I've never met in person, and I love you all. So thank you so very much. So I guess that's all I got. So as always, stay witchy. Bye-bye.